Monday afternoon to you, 4 o'clock, time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope your week's off to a great start. Browns celebrating a much-needed win over Jacksonville yesterday at Cleveland Browns Stadium. Now 8-5 and in the top spot as far as the AFC wildcard picture goes. Let's head into the locker room and hear Kevin Stefanski addressing his team.
Hey, that was not a playoff game. But that sure as hell felt like a playoff game. And that's our season from here on out. That's our season. That's this journey that we talked about last night. That's what it is, okay? What I saw was guys that were fighting off for each other. That's what I saw, okay? Defensively, 4 takeaways. And the kid with 2 of them, MJ. Okay, then offensively, it wasn't always perfect. We don't have to be perfect. We're looking for our best, but we don't have to be perfect. All right, but 3 for 3 on 4th down is pretty damn good. All right, that's the story of the game right there.
Coach is right, man. You know, it was not pretty today, and I was not my best, but these are what makes teams. These tough games. You know, you guys earn the right all year to play December football, and that's what we're doing right now, and that's what it looks like sometimes. And then January and February, this is what it's going to be. And to have the mental toughness to come through in those types of games, that's what winter's made of. So, you know, hey, bring these games on. It's just going to make us better in the long run. And I appreciate you guys having me, man. I feel like a 10-year-old kid out there.
Joe Flacco looking pretty good. Let's take a look at his numbers. This from Pro Football Focus. Browns tweeting this out. 7 of 14, 126 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions, a 105 passer rating. Those are on Joe Flacco throws yesterday against the Jaguars. 10-plus yards in the air. Again, a nice job by Joe Flacco. Let's welcome in Scott Petrak, Browns beat reporter from the Elyria Chronicle Telegram as well as brownzone.com. And, you know, we're 2 games in, 2 really good games by Joe Flacco.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, for him to throw for 5 touchdowns and I think it's 565 yards in 2 games, I mean, it's really remarkable given all the situations, right? He hadn't been on a team all season long, signs to the practice squad here 1 week, then has to start the next. So all the credit to Joe Flacco, all the credit to the coaches for getting him up to speed. But he certainly looks like a guy that should have been on a roster all season long. Whether it was Cleveland's or somebody else's, there's a lot of bad quarterbacks in this league. I mean, Joe Flacco isn't one of them.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder. It's like, can we count on it? You know what I mean? It's been so good through 2 games. It's like, at some point there has to be a little regression, or why wasn't this guy in the league the first 10, 11 weeks?
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, I'm sure he was a starter for so long, right? For 11 years with the Ravens and then a little bit for Denver. So it kind of gets a point in a guy's career where teams say, okay, he's not the starter anymore. And then he's got to fit in as a backup. And he did that for the last 3 years with the Jets. I don't know if then he gets off a radar or you hit 38 and teams are like, oh, that's too much or too old. I don't know if he wanted too much money, but he said he didn't get a lot of calls in the offseason. So it's just weird because, you know, the Browns keep bringing it up. We saw week 2 when he was with the Jets and came in here and threw those 2 touchdown passes in the last 82 seconds. He can still throw it. And what's really impressed me about him, Dave, is, like, I figured he could throw it, right? We saw that last year, all his career. He's thrown it really well. I don't think that disappears unless you are injured. So I figured he would throw it well. It's the fact that he's had enough movement, right? He's never going to be Deshaun Watson or DTR. But the fact that he slid in the pocket on that 4th and 3 touchdown to David Bell, he can run the bootleg, he can run the play action. All those things, to me, just check boxes as far as why this guy can keep doing this. I don't know how long it's sustainable, you know, in a starting role, and maybe he's going to throw some picks one of these days, or the protection breaks down, you're in trouble. But I don't know. I haven't seen anything in 2 games that makes me wonder that it's going to show up the next week.
So this from CBSSports.com. Week 14 overreactions, reality checks for the Browns. Joe Flacco, the best quarterbacks on the Browns roster. Overreaction or reality? They say reality. Flacco's the only Browns quarterback this year to throw for 303 touchdowns, not Watson. Watson, the franchise quarterback, better option long term, but Flacco has been better through just 2 games in 2023. And Scott, you know I am not a Deshaun Watson basher by any stretch. Flacco, the offense has looked good as it has all season, the last couple games with Joe Flacco.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And it's been like 2 straight games, kind of feels connected, right? Watson's good games, they feel broken up. He had a good game against Tennessee, right? That's probably the best game, probably best offensive game the Browns have played this year when they won 27-3. The really strong second half against the Ravens. Arizona game was good for Deshaun. So, I don't want to just erase any good moments he had, but it feels different. And I think it feels different because it's throws from the pocket, right? There's not the, okay, play breaks down and the quarterback scrambles around for a while and then makes a play with his feet or throws a broken play. This is quarterback drops back, sets up in the pocket, and makes a throw. And that just looks and feels different. And I think it can even be easier to coach that way. Now, you want those off-schedule plays when everything breaks down, and that's certainly the way the league is going. But just like aesthetically, it feels that way, certainly, that these, if not the 2 of the best offensive games this team has played this year.
Yeah, you really can't argue with that. Kevin Stefanski met with media today, gave us an injury update as well as just a reaction to the Jaguars win a day later.
Injury front, DeJuan Jones has a knee injury that's going to require surgery, so that will put him out for this season. Disappointed for DeJuan, obviously, and he'll rehab and we'll get him back. But tough for him, but next man up. Juan Thornhill has a calf injury. We'll see how that goes this week. Grant Delpit still working through that injury and getting some more clarity on that one. And then everybody else, again, getting more information as the day goes on. To the game yesterday, like we talked about after the game, a ton of really impressive performances, offense, defense, special teams. Some guys stepped up and made some really big plays for us. We needed them. Good football team, good challenge for us, obviously, with the players, with the scheme they have. So I thought it was really a positive day for us and coming out of there with a win.
And Scott, the DeJuan Jones, that's tough. That means, you're out 3 of your tackles, your top tackles. Still not sure if Jedrick Wills is going to come back. And now the secondary, Denzel Ward was unable to go. So Ward, Thornhill, Delpit, in addition to McLeod, it's getting thin in some key areas, being an offensive line in the secondary.
Yeah, there's no doubt. You hope Jed Wills can come back sooner rather than later, so at least you have one of your tackles. Because it's hard to tell both of them, right? I mean, that's just what it is. If you can trust one guy to block on one side, it's hard to – you can do that and help the one guy. If you got to help both sides, it's hard. But I'll tell you what, James Hudson played yesterday for DeJuan Jones, and it's not like Flacco was running for his life all day. So they were able to hold up. I think it helps if Flacco gets the ball out of his hands so well. But, you want the continuity in the run game too, and I think the run game hasn't been in its top form the last couple of weeks, and I think part of that is the injuries across the front. You lose a guy like Keaton Posick at center on the second series. You got a new right tackle in there. It's just difficult. So, obviously, the Jones loss is huge because he's been so good in pass protection that when he was healthy and when he was on the field, you felt like you could go one-on-one with him and not have to worry about it. And that's not the same with James Hudson III in there. And then, safety, I think they're okay at corner. I mean, they missed Denzel Ward. There's no doubt about it. Maybe he comes back this week. Stefanski said he's close. But they were okay yesterday without him. Obviously, you got 3 interceptions from your corners. But the safety is a concern, right? If you're already down McLeod, if you're down Delpit and Thornhill, all of a sudden you're on your 4th and 5th and 6th safeties. That's really hard to do. So You hope Thornhill can get back. It doesn't sound like Delpit's going to make it this week. I don't know how long he'll be out, but that's certainly an area of concern.
All right, let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason for the first time today.
Great team win today by the Browns. Love Joe Flacco's locker room speech. I mean, that is true team leadership. And I think everybody in the locker room, even Coach Stefanski, was drawn in by that. And if you noticed his words, January and February, Flacco's got his eyes on the big prize. Go Browns.
Scott, when you're a Super Bowl MVP, you have a little bit of cachet in a locker room, without question. And Joe Flacco's been around, and he knows what it looks like.
He does, right? Won a Super Bowl MVP, been to the playoffs a bunch. I think he's 10-5 in his career as a start in the playoffs. It was his 100th regular season win yesterday. So that's a lot. And guys know this, whether or not, Joe Bitonio has been in the league for 10 years, right? So he crossed paths with Flacco. A guy like Cedric Tillman, the receiver, I mean, I'm trying to do the quick math. I mean, he was like 7, something like that when Flacco entered the league, right? That's pretty substantial. He's 38. He's got 5 kids. There's not a lot of guys on the team that can relate to that. But they see his resume. They see how he throws the ball, how he picks up the offense. And I think all that it provides hope and gives guys a reason to believe. And I think we saw that even before that Rams start. He hadn't played at all, but I felt like just being around the team in LA that week that he gave them the confidence that, this isn't a knock on DTR, but maybe it's missing from a guy that doesn't have the same resume and experience. And then for him to come in and play the way he has these last 2 weeks, that confidence has only grown, where now, I don't think it's crazy to think about the Browns winning a playoff game with Joe Flacco. That would have sounded ridiculous however many weeks and months ago. To me, it doesn't sound ridiculous at all. And I think his teammates believe that. And that speech in the locker room was cool.
All right. Before we go to break, I know you've answered this in one of your mailbags. Why do you think the Browns haven't been able to stop the turnovers?
Yeah, I answered that before the game yesterday, and then they go and turn it over 3 more times, right? I know everything stops with the coaching staff, right? And I get it. But I know they're stressing it. I watch them in practice. They do ball security drills all the time at every position. Sometimes it doesn't translate. Sometimes it's bad luck. The ball bounces your wrong way or doesn't bounce your way. Let's go through the 3 yesterday. Flacco throws an interception. Cedric Tillman is trying to run an in route and runs into a defender. That's not Flacco's fault. He's throwing a timing route. Now, I don't know if Tillman needs to fight through there better, if he needs to avoid it to get to that spot. It's an interception. Flacco doesn't see the blitzer coming and gets strip sack fumble. I think he probably should have seen that. So that's on Flacco. And then Amari Cooper fumbles, right? He's one of your best players, usually sure-handed, loses a fumble. I got a hard time blaming Kevin Stefanski for any of those, right? So sometimes it's your players just let you down. Sometimes it's bad luck. But it certainly followed the Browns all year. And we can talk about, winning with 4 different quarterbacks and fighting through all the injuries. The fact that they're 8-5 with the turnover margin the way it is really stunning.
Scott Petrak, Browns beat reporter from the Elyria Chronicle-Telegram, as well as BrownsZone.com, and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. We head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason when we return. Stay with us.
Holiday gold! The $20 scratch-off?
It has 100 times multiplier. I could win $1 million.
Psych! I got merry and bright.
No fair.
It has a 200 times multiplier. I could win $2 million!
Game on the back.
Game on the back. Game on the back! Game on the back! Game on the back! Game on the back! Game.
We continue talking Browns with Scott Petrak from the Elyria Chronicle-Telegram, as well as BrownsZone.com. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Good morning. This is Jim from Rochester. Just wanted to say that was a great win yesterday, and I did want to say this. Coach Stefanski was finally starting to show some personality. He's stepping out from behind the billboard he holds in front of his face and was actually congratulating players and getting involved. That goes a long way for this team. I hope he realizes that and gets going. And once again, kudos to Flacco. He should have been the starter named anyways. But I understand the politics involved there. Guys, have a great day, and we'll probably talk again closer to Sunday. Take care. Bye now.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Scott, I think the players see Kevin Stefanski's personality day in and day out more than we do. I think it's more, during games, it's more fans that can now relate to it. But, yeah, I get it. I get what he's getting at with that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, because Stefanski's personality overall is pretty even keel, right? I mean, we're on year 4. You know, we don't see really outbursts with the media. He's pretty, he doesn't give a lot of great answers. But there's personality there. There's no doubt about it. If you're around him, off the record, you see it. Every once in a while, you see it in an interview where it really shines through. And then you do see it in games. It's just a matter of, like, I think if the camera were on him all the time, you would see it. But he's pretty laid back and calm most of the time, so the cameras aren't trained on him like they would be for a Pete Carroll, right, or a Rex Ryan, like somebody that's really boisterous on the sideline. So you don't catch all of it. But we saw in L.A. when he was screaming at the refs after that false start on Ethan Posick, right? There's emotion. And we've seen that plenty of times. Like, he yells at the refs a lot. I've seen it. From the press box, you can see it. Yesterday, you catch him running down the sideline. It's a good moment. It does show the emotion. And, I hope fans are realizing that. And I also hope fans appreciate just how well he's done this year. That fan said it took forever. They're 8-5, and they shouldn't be 8-5. And I think you have to give Kevin Stefanski a bunch of credit for that.
Yeah, it would be hard to argue, with all that has gone on injury-wise and quarterback-wise and running back-wise, that he's not doing a good job. All right, post-game, he named Joe Flacco starter for the rest of the season. Here is Flacco's reaction to that.
Well, obviously, it feels good when it looks like people have confidence in you. I know I've been in a bunch of locker rooms, but whenever you walk into a locker room, you still want to gain the respect of everybody. And, you don't know if you quite have that until you can go out there and get a win and continue to do it day in and day out. You try to carry yourself the right way and you try to do all the right things, but that doesn't guarantee anything in terms of going out in the field on Sunday. So it feels awesome to go out there and get the win. I do feel like we're doing a lot of good things. Today was a sloppy game. I didn't play my best. We turned the ball over a couple times, and you got to give a lot of credit to our defense, the way they played today. 14 points off of, Jacksonville got those balls at least inside the 30-yard line both times. I would say inside the 20 probably, right? Tip your hat to our defense. Our offense does, I think you guys can see it and feel it a little bit. We have the ability to really start to get over the hump. We're not quite there yet, but we're going to work hard and we're going to continue to get better.
So, Scott, Flacco becomes the 4th quarterback to win a game for the Browns. That hasn't happened very often. He's going to make his 3rd straight start Sunday against the Bears. The Browns haven't had a quarterback start 3 games in a row since Deshaun Watson did it games 1, 2, and 3 this year. That, more than anything, is probably why this offense hasn't been in sync.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair to say. And then, it's not like the quarterback play was great. And part of that's because you're in and out of the lineup, whether it was Watson, whether it was DTR or PJ Walker, right? And I didn't check today, but I know going into Sunday, the Browns had the lowest passer rating in the league for the season. So that's why the offense is in sync. You get different quarterbacks, all of it. And when we talk offense, it's run game. It's mostly passing game. But, yeah, we've seen struggles there all year. And the defense carried the team for a while. Now with Flacco, the offense is starting to pick up the slack and help the defense out. And it doesn't have to be 16-15 or 20-19. You can give up 27 and still win the game. So it does feel like the offense has turned the corner. And a lot of that, like you said, is the continuity becomes a quarterback, and especially with Joe Flacco.
All right, so Myles Garrett talked about the attitude of the team as well as some extenuating circumstances that are keeping the defensive linemen from getting sacks.
There's no quitting us, and never will be. That's not not a single man is going to fall to our waiver. With any adversity that we face, whether personally or through the team, we're all pointing the same direction and keep our eyes towards the prize.
Myles, I know there's a lot more to it than just the sacks, but for you guys to have 4 as a defense today, what did that just say? How you guys responded to last week not being able to record a sack?
Could have been more. The officiating was a travesty today. It was honestly awful. And the fact that they're letting them get away with hands to the face, holding, false starting. I know they called a couple, but damn, they could have called it all game. And the one that cost us, they're on the 2-yard line. Respect to those guys. It's a hard job, but hell, we have a hard job as well. You can't make it harder by throwing holding and hands to the face out the rule book. And like I said, I got a lot of respect for those guys. But, we get scrutinized for the plays that we don't make. So, someone has to hold them accountable for the plays or the calls they don't make. And, they need to be under the same kind of microscope as we are every single play.
Scott, I'm surprised that he hasn't gotten more frustrated a lot sooner because when you sit and watch every play, they're grabbing, they're holding, the false starts are the ones that are, everybody takes a half-step false start against Myles Garrett. You see that more than 25% of the snaps.
Yeah, that's interesting. That call is a weird one in the league, right, where the tackle gets that half a step. Like James Hudson got called for it yesterday, and I thought it wasn't. I thought it looked like every other half step early that I've seen. Joe Thomas did that his whole career. But I think the holding, the hands of the face, it's interesting. And, you see it from Myles. And you see it on TV. You see it from the press box, where there's I yelled yesterday on a call, man, he's getting held. The official's standing right there. He looks at the official, no call. And I do think, obviously, that's frustrating, and I understand it completely. And it's 3 games in a row without an official sack for Garrett, and that has to add to the frustration. So I understand it completely. And if you're Myles Garrett, I think you hope your comments have some kind of impact and maybe the officials pay closer attention and you get a couple of flags, and that's the difference in the game. Having said that, I don't love him saying that publicly, and I really don't love media, players, coaches across the league being so public about the officiating. Because I just think it's a bad look. I think it's more enjoyable to watch a game when there's not such intense focus on every call. Guys are going to miss calls. It's going to happen. So I just don't like that narrative being promoted from the guys. I think you can complain about it. You can talk to the officials. You can talk to the league. I just think I wouldn't go public. That's
fair enough. All right, Grant Delpit over the weekend agreed to a 3-year, $36 million contract extension, just over $23 million of it guaranteed. Delpit, with his reaction to being a Brown for a few more years.
Cleveland, Grant Delpit checking in. I'm excited to be here for many more years to come. Continue this winning culture we have going right now. Y'all shown me nothing but love since I've been here, and I look forward to showing that back and getting some more wins, man. Dog pound, let's go.
And again, Scott, we had talked about the banged up in the game yesterday, so not sure he's going to be able to go, but he's had a great year.
Yeah, he's been really good. The only surprising part of this to me is they committed a pretty good amount of money to Juan Thornhill in the offseason, right? 3 years, $21 million, 14 guaranteed. And I just wasn't sure that they would pay 2 safeties. I wasn't sure that fit kind of their salary cap model. Now, maybe it's only 1 year together, 1 more year together, and then they'll figure out what to do with Thornhill. And I do understand. Delpit's your second-round pick. You want to keep those guys around. If it's a good draft pick and he turns out to play well, it's silly to let the guy walk away. So that makes all the sense in the world. I do think Delpit, you could see it at the end of last year, right? And I remember talking about it with you, Dave. He started to make plays. He had a big game against Washington, but you weren't sure it was sustainable. And then it really has carried over where I feel like he's played well pretty much week in and week out. And there was a play yesterday. He went shooting through that line on a blitz and got to Trevor Lawrence, where you could really see the athleticism he has. He's got good size. He can cover. He's good at the line of scrimmage against a run. The extension makes sense for sure. It's just kind of interesting in the big scheme of the salary cap.
Scott Patrick and I are going to step aside, take another time out. Other side of the break, back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Scott Petrek from the Elyria Chronicle Telegram as well as brownzone.com. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, love the show. Great team win yesterday. I've been a big proponent of re-signing Grant Delpit on your show, but they finally paid him and he gets hurt, so hopefully the young man is okay. He deserved to get paid. 2 quick questions. Is this the last year that the Browns draft capital goes to Houston for the Deshaun Watson trade? And number 2, do you see the Browns trying to keep Cooper at any cost? I mean, I know they don't want to pay him what he's due next year, but do you see them trying to rework his contract to keep him for another year, or do you see them letting him walk? Just want to hear your thoughts. Go Browns. Woo, woo, woo. 8-5, baby.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Scott, so the Browns do still owe the Texans 2024 first and fifth round picks for Deshaun Watson, so it is the last year of that. Right now, Amari Cooper's playing really well. I can't imagine them not trying to find a way to extend him out and keep him around, because I don't see another threat in the receiving core that does what he does.
Oh, there's not. And I think maybe even a year ago or 6 months ago, that if the Browns in their front office looked at the contract, they would have said, okay, maybe Cooper's last year is 2023. Because he's due, I think it's at least $20 million for the next couple years after this, I believe. So that's a lot of money, big salary cap hit. But they don't have anybody else to replace him, like you said. So I just think he's too valuable. There's not another answer for who's going to be your number one. It certainly doesn't look like it's going to be Elijah Moore. Maybe the Browns hoped at some point it would be. So, yeah, I think you either have to pay what the salary, what his contract says and just pay it, or restructure it to lessen the salary cap and maybe string it out longer. But I'd be stunned if they don't figure out a way for Amari Cooper to be here next year.
Yeah, I just don't, especially, Deshaun Watson, you want to give him all the weapons that you possibly can. I would agree. So Chris Sims, former NFL quarterback, what he saw from the Browns against the Jaguars. This from Chris Sims Unbuttoned.
Damn okay Browns. They have beaten 4 of the 6 AFC playoff teams, including the number 1 seed, multiple injuries, 4 different starting quarterbacks, and have a 1-game lead on all other AFC wildcard teams. And they're doing it with that man you're seeing on YouTube right now, Joe Flacco, out-dueled Trevor Lawrence, 311 yards, 3 touchdowns. Did have a couple turnovers. That's okay. We'll overlook that because he won the game. But, I mean, this is pretty crazy for a guy who turns, 57 in a week or something.
It's insane. And in both weeks, they've had to ask him to throw 40-something balls, right? That's where I was like, what? I was expecting, hey, Joe's, 16 for 22, right? Something like that in a football game both weeks. They're going hey, can you carry the team and make, 50 right reads for us here every game? That's where it's shocking, Great game planning early on. It was all boots and play action passes. David Njoku, they had the 4th down play. They go for it on 4th and short to prove me wrong. Njoku wide open, touchdown. Yeah. Great job by them, right? They had it going on early. They really did.
Scott, when you watch Flacco, his skill set matches Kevin Stefanski's offense as well as anybody we've seen.
Yeah, and it's the old offense, right? It's what we saw in 2020, 2021, the under center, the play action, the rollouts, those half boots. Man, I think you're exactly right. And we talked about it a little bit earlier. It's just, if you can stand in the pocket and make throws, that's what a coach wants to see. It's just easier. And it's not just making the throws, right? You have to make the right reads. And Flacco said he didn't make all the right ones the first 2 games, and sometimes his eyes and feet didn't match. He threw a couple balls in the dirt yesterday, which is unlike him. He said it just came out funny. But overall, he threw it well. Overall, he made a bunch of right reads. On the 4th downs, he converted. Stefanski helped him. I thought Stefanski called a really good game and had guys open. You think of the first touchdown to Njoku, the 4th and 3 to David Bell. Flacco had to make the right read, slide a little bit, but it's still David Bell's open there on 4th and 3. So, yeah, I just think that everything Flacco can do, and it's not like he's not limited, but the fact that he can get rid of it quickly, make quick decisions, and throw it to all sections of the field while helping your run game with the play fakes and all that, I think that's what Stefanski is looking for.
The other thing, it seems like they're throwing more of those crossing routes and things where the defender gets, or the receiver gets inside the defender over the middle of the field. That was something that I kept waiting to see, and we didn't really see it until Flacco came in, and it's been effective for him.
Yeah, that might be tied to play action, Dave, right? Because that's when the linebackers suck up. You get the guys running behind that first layer of the defense. You do see a lot of, I think Joe's been good at this, and it's not just Joe, but Amari Cooper, you see him one-on-one with some space. He throws a quick hit, the quick hook, quick hitch, right? And it picks up 8 yards. Like, he can get it out there in a hurry where he doesn't have any questions about it. And I think that's kind of at the root of all his success. He trusts his arm so much that he's willing to put it into tighter windows than some other guys. And yes, it could come back and bite him sometimes, but I think more often than not, it's going to be there, and it's going to be on the guy's chest, and he's going to have a chance to make the catch. So, you see, the guy at the corner's got outside leverage, and Cooper's got to step on a slant. Boom, he's thrown it, and he's thrown it a bunch of times in the 1.5 games that Cooper and he had been together, because Cooper, left that Rams game early. So it does open up the playbook. It opens up the field. Can see him taking shots. They had Marquise Goodwin back, the speedy receiver. I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of deep balls to him a game, just to continue to loosen up that defense.
All right, before we go to break, I know this is from your mailbag. What should be on the Browns' wish list for Santa coming up this holiday season?
Yeah, it feels like it gets a little longer every injury they have. You want Denzel Ward back as quickly as possible. Like, that's it's probably at the top of the list. Or maybe right behind Joe Flacco staying healthy, right? That needs to be on the wish list. Denzel Ward comes back. Jedrick Rose comes back. Some of the injuries yesterday aren't serious, right? Grant Delpit, Ethan Posick, Reese Hurst with the pec muscle. So to me, it's all about continuity in injuries, because I feel like they're set up. Like, I don't know if you need to go get anybody else. I just think you need to have some of your guys available.
Scott Petrick from the Elyria Chronicle Telegram, brownzone.com, and I'm going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports for CLE, we'll be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. We continue talking Browns with Scott Petrak from the Elyria Chronicle, Telegram, as well as BrownsZone.com. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey guys, and I'm not a Kevin Stefanski follower, you know that. And when he does good, I give him credit. But when he doesn't, I have to hit him. And we're up by 2 touchdowns. And you're in the third quarter. I don't understand why you would throw the ball on second down when it's time to run the ball. You're up by 2 touchdowns. You got a quarterback who's only been here 2 games. Why are you throwing that ball? That was the coach's turnover. He's turned the ball over just like his players are. The players have turned the ball over, but he just turned it over. And that's what I got to say. All right, bye.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Scott, I get the idea, run the ball when you're up ahead. Problem is we don't have, there isn't a guy that the Browns have. Now, Kareem Hunt can break tackles. Jerome Ford, Pierre Strong do not break tackles. If you're running into stacked boxes, you're going to get behind the sticks. You get behind the sticks, this offense is not nearly as effective.
Yeah, I mean, they just didn't run it great yesterday. Ford was fine, 12 for 51, and I think the numbers look better if you take away a couple of those negative runs. He had a really hard time on some of those sweeps. It kept getting, like, the pitches that would get stretched out, and instead of putting his foot in and just getting back to the line of scrimmage, he kept going sideways and took some losses there. Kareem was 10 for 27. So, and plus he had a bunch of injuries on that O-line like we talked about. I just think they felt they were better throwing the ball. And the other half of that equation is Jacksonville was scoring, right? Trevor Lawrence is in the game. They got some weapons. Like, I don't know if Stefanski felt comfortable at 21-7 that the game was going to be over. I think he thought Jacksonville was going to get to 20-something. So with that thought, you got to keep scoring. So I get it. At some point, you want to be able to turn it over the run game. But they kind of tried that when they got the ball back up 7 after the turnover, after the Jacksonville turned it over on downs. I think they ran 3 times and gained no yards, right? And then kicked a 5-yard field goal. So they just weren't running it well enough for Stefanski to have full faith.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the run game, by and large, has been a little bit of a disappointment this year. And there are reasons. The offensive line is beat up.
Well, and they don't have Nick Chubb, right? I mean,
yeah,
right. I mean, but I think it's mostly been the last couple of weeks because for a while there, I forget after which game, they were still 1 or 3 in the league, right? So the numbers are still good. They had some big numbers early in the season, but I think there's been kind of a gradual decline, which went to DTR starting and everything was compressed from a defensive standpoint. You got guys in and out of the lineup. Your offensive line's banged up. Like all that contributes to it. But I think it's fair to say they need to get it back going. And if you get some continuity on the line, Jed Wills, I don't know when Jed Wills is coming back. I think he's a good run blocker. Like he's an upgrade there. They do need to figure some stuff out because it's probably not fair to ask Joe Flacco to throw 48 times a game.
All right, so this is from Dan Murphy of the Browns. Browns improved to 6-1 at home this season, have outscored opponents 144-88. Since Kevin Stefanski was hired in 2020, they have a .688 winning percentage at Cleveland Browns Stadium. Scott, we both know you win, you get that winning percentage at home, you split on the road, and you're a playoff team consistently.
Yeah, I mean, that's impressive, right? You take all Stefanski's numbers, that's one near the top of the list for what he's done better than his predecessors. And there's a difference in the energy that you feel with the team when they're at home this year, right? And, I've been on the road with them every game this year, and it's just different. And you watch the defense, and you see the defense after every play pumping up the crowd and the crowd pumping them up. And now it's got to travel. Like the defense has to play well on the road. It has to play better than it has. But it's fun to watch at home, and you see that, and that's the synergy that should be there.
All right. So up next, Chicago Bears former NFL offensive lineman Brian Baldinger. Little video breakdown of Justin Fields, the Bears' mobile quarterback.
If I'm a kid in Chicago, all I want is a pair of orange Justin Fields football cleats. Because this guy, his ability just to get through that right there. Alex Anzalone, you get Aiden Hutchinson. Like the shoes, It's like Jordan. It's all about the shoes. They can't tackle him. They can't catch him. And all he does is run away from him. If I'm a kid in Chicago, Mom, Dad, all I want is a pair of Justin Fields shoes. Please, I want to be able to move like that.
Scott, Baldinger having a little bit of fun. Now, the flip side of that is, though, Lamar Jackson, an older Geno Smith, an older Russell Wilson, mobile quarterbacks have given this really good Browns defense trouble. And Justin Fields is probably in the same category as Lamar Jackson. I mean, that's a playoff defense that was pretty amazing against the Lions yesterday.
Yeah, he's really good with the ball in his hands. I think you've seen him grow throughout the year. It's still, I haven't watched a ton of the Bears, so I think it's still spotty from a passing game standpoint, still inconsistent. That Monday night game against Minnesota, a lot of ups and downs. But he is certainly dynamic with the ball in his hands. And there's no doubt the Browns have struggled with quarterbacks that can run, the kind of the zone read, right? Like that just aspect of it, that threat of the running quarterback. And when you're down safeties like the Browns might be, I think that really stresses you in that area. You have to be disciplined. You have to be quick and aggressive. So that's going to be a tough matchup. Like that is the key to watch in that game. And I just flashed back to remember when Fields made his first NFL start as a rookie was against the Browns. They sacked him like 9 times. Yeah. Right. And he could still move back then, but you're second slow, right? As a rookie, first time you see it. I think the Browns would probably settle for 4 or 5 sacks.
Yeah, Myles Garrett had 4.5 alone. But yeah, JOK, get ready. We may need your running shoes on for Justin Fields. Scott Petrak, as always, thanks so much for the time and the insight. As always, great stuff. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Steve.
Scott Petrak, make sure you check him out, Elyria Chronicle, Telegram, Browns beat reporter. You can also get his stuff on the internet, brownzone.com. We're step aside. We continue talking Browns. Tyler Johnson, straight ahead. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
Holiday gold! The $20 scratch-off?
It has 100 times multiplier. I could win $1 million.
Psych! I got merry and bright.
No fair.
It has a 200 times multiplier. I could win $2 million.
Game on the back.
Game on the back.
Game on the back!
Game on the back! Game on the back! Game on the back! Game.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in. I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams, I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
This is Bernard from New Philadelphia. Great game today. Especially happy with Coach Stefanski showing some real encouragement and enthusiasm on the sidelines. Great play calling today. Can't say anything on both sides of the ball. We played great. Only thing I wish they do now is just stay focused. Keep your eyes on the prize. Next 4 games are going to be tough. So, go Browns.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Let's welcome in Tyler Johnson, Faithful Dogs Podcast Network 216. Tyler, I think Kevin Stefanski shows emotion to his team. I get it, though. Fans want to see it on the sidelines. Just the level-headed approach is why players like playing for him.
Exactly, Dave. And I'll admit, seeing that video after that Joe Flacco touchdown pass, I loved it. It is cool to see him show emotion from time to time, but at the same time, like you said, that is what makes him who he is, and that's why players love playing for him, because he's very even keel. He keeps to himself, and I'm sure he shows plenty of emotion in meetings when he's in the building with these players and at practice that the media and a lot of us just don't see. So it is really cool to see. I agree with that. And like the caller said, these last 4 games are very critical, especially now with all of the injuries that continue to pile up for this team that they seem to have every single week. And they just keep finding ways to overcome it. I've never seen really any NFL team that's overcome this many injuries to be where they are. And it's a testament not only to the players, but Kevin Stefanski and the coaching staff for keeping these guys focused and ready every single week. And when they say next man up, it really is next man up. I mean, Ronnie Hickman delivered, and he wasn't expected to play a big role yesterday. Jerron Christian has been really good for the Browns. So you have guys that are stepping up when called upon, and that's really encouraging.
So take a look at this. This is from Jake Trotter. Joe Flacco, the first Browns quarterback with 3 touchdown passes of 30 yards or more in a single game since Brian Sipe in 1980. Those were the original Cardiac Kids in 1980. And again, Flacco's been playing really well. Let's hope there isn't any regression, because right now they need him to play just like he has.
You know, it's funny, Dave. If we would have talked, let's say, beginning of the year, Joe Flacco is going to be signed by the Browns at some point, and he's going to win them a football game, everyone would laugh hysterically. They would have thought, oh, you're doing a Madden simulation. And Joe Flacco has been absolutely fantastic. Of course, he's turned the ball over a couple times, but you know what? This guy was on his couch about 3-4 weeks ago, and he's now leading the Browns to victories. And it's just absolutely incredible what he's done. You can tell he's comfortable in the offense, too, and I think that goes back to his experience that he has. He's seen every offense. So he already, what Kevin Stefanski wants to run and what Kevin Stefanski is most comfortable with is what Joe Flacco already knows how to do. And you're seeing that translate to the football field. As long as Joe Flacco can stay healthy, as long as they can continue to keep him upright. I mean, I think he's been sacked maybe once or twice in the last couple of weeks, since he's taken over a starter, which is remarkable given all the injuries the offensive line has had. If they can continue to keep him upright, Joe Flacco can lead this team to the playoffs. And again, it's just a remarkable story with everything that's gone on this year.
All right, this is also from Jake Trotter. Browns just the 8th NFL team since 1950 to have 4 different starting quarterbacks win a game in a single season. Joe Flacco talked about winning games with 4 different quarterbacks this year and what it means for the Browns.
You can't say enough about what this team's done all year. Just losing guys and continuing to succeed, whether it's the run game or the offensive line, whatever it may be. I think you got to give the coaching staff and all the guys in there a ton of credit for how they've been able to maintain their focus and still have the belief.
How much is that? How much is that, Kevin?
Yeah, listen, I've only been around Kevin a few weeks, but he's got a very good demeanor. He's definitely a head coach, and I think he's the first guy you're going to have to look at when you talk about that kind of stuff.
And again, for the guys that aren't happy with Kevin Stefanski, there's only been 8 teams since 1950. It's now 2023. Only 8 teams have won with 4 different quarterbacks.
Yeah, and what's funny about that, Dave, is P.J. Walker, again, credit to him for finding ways to win when it mattered, playing his best very last drives of the game. Statistically, he's been the worst quarterback in the NFL when he's had to start this year. DTR, he's also bottom of the barrel when it comes to quarterback. Deshaun Watson obviously struggled this year. Kevin Stefanski won a game with all 3 of them. Then you bring a guy in off the street who has not played football all year, and he wins a football game with him too. It just, again, you can't give Kevin Stefanski enough credit. And of course, there are always going to be those fans that still want him to give up play calling. I don't want him to give up play calling ever. I mean, this guy knows exactly what he's doing, and sometimes, of course, he overthinks things. And there are NFL play callers that do it all the time. I mean, we see it across the league every single week. But one thing's for certain, he's going to take chances. He's going to do interesting formations. I mean, we've seen the wishbone in Cleveland with 3 offensive linemen in the backfield. We have seen DTR come in on a crucial third down, come in and run a quarterback sweep just to pick up 3 yards on a first down. Harrison Bryant has taken snaps from under center for a quarterback sneak. We have seen it all with Kevin Stefanski, and that's what I love about him as a play caller, because he's going to get creative. He's going to do whatever it takes for this team to win, and you're seeing it this year. He has tailored different game plans to 4 different starting quarterbacks and led this team to a victory. So if the Browns make the playoffs, I know Dan Campbell's, the Lions have been good. I know there are a lot of other coaches, D'Amico Ryans, if the Texans make the playoffs. At the same time, I don't know how Kevin Stefanski is not the coach of the year, given that stat right there. He has won a game with 4 different starting quarterbacks. And that right there, if you do that and you make the playoffs, not even counting in all the injuries this team has had, he has to be coach of the year, in my opinion.
So the Browns have played 4 games this year against teams that are currently division leaders. They're 3-1 in those games, and a different quarterback has started each one of those games. So the loss to the Ravens, DTR started. When they beat the 49ers, P.J. Walker started it. They beat the Ravens, Deshaun Watson started that game, and when they beat the Jaguars, Joe Flacco started that game. So that takes it even a step further. Again, it's typically a guy that has turned a franchise around. That's kind of the traditional thinking, or a first-year head coach. D'Amico Ryans and the Texans, they had the first couple picks in the draft. So that's going to be awfully tough to beat if they make the playoffs.
Yeah, and it will. And I think the Texans have had a great year. I know that there's a showdown coming, not this week, of course. It's a week away, so you don't want to look too far ahead. That could have playoff implications not only for the Browns but for the Texans, even though C.J. Stroud is now in concussion protocol. Really hope he gets out of that before then, just because, he's had a fantastic year. Was in the MVP conversation up until Sunday. And you just look at what they've done. D'Amico Ryans has completely transformed that team and gave him a shot in the AFC East. I don't know if they're going to, depending on what happens on Sunday, I don't know if they're still going to have that opportunity, but we'll see. Again, Kevin Stefanski, though, he's up there with any of them, with just everything this team has dealt with. And winning 2 Coach of the Year awards with the Cleveland Browns, talk about remarkable. And I keep saying it, he should have been extended a long time ago. And they need to extend him, I think, before the end of the season. They're probably going to wait till the end of the year, but I would do it right now because there's no reason why you shouldn't.
Yeah, they're going to wait and focus on trying to make the playoffs, I would imagine. All right, Tyler Johnson and I are going to step aside, take one more time out of the side of the break. We'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason, talk a little bit more about the upcoming game against the Bears. Sports4CLE, I'll be right back. Stay with us.
The $20 scratch-off? It has 100 times multiplier. I could win $1 million.
Psych! I got Mary and Bright.
No fair.
It has a 200 times multiplier. I could win $2 million.
Game on the back.
Game on the back.
Game on the back!
Game on the back. Game on the back. Game on the back.
We continue talking Browns with Tyler Johnson from the Faithful Dogs podcast, as well as Network 216. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hi, this is Rico. What makes me confused, but, very excited, is how can Flacco come off his couch and throw for over 500-plus yards in just 2 games? In the meantime, Watson is struggling just to reach 200 yards. Now, I know stats don't mean anything unless you win. And to be fair, Watson was 5-1 as a starting quarterback. But I'm just wondering, how is this possible? Is it the playing style of Flacco versus Watson? What am I missing here? Thanks. Go Browns.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Tyler, I think it's absolutely the playing style. I think Flacco kind of fits the prototypical guy. Kirk Cousins had success. It's a guy in the pocket that has the arm to throw. And Kevin Stefanski was trying to tweak his offense to fit a more mobile quarterback and in Deshaun Watson. The ceiling's pretty high if they can figure that out. But right now, Joe Flacco looks awfully comfortable with what Kevin Stefanski needs him to do.
Yeah, exactly. And it's different play styles for sure. Deshaun Watson is a guy that wants to use his legs to make plays, not necessarily running the football, but extending plays and getting receivers open off of plays that he is making with his legs. Joe Flacco is your typical pocket passer that really excels off of play action. We saw that on Sunday. Now, Joe Flacco also can do the bootlegs. You don't really want him doing that a ton just because, again, it takes a while to develop. And if you don't block that exactly right, we saw on Sunday, there's times that it's going to cause plays to get blown up. But Joe Flacco, for what Stefanski wants to run, is that prototypical quarterback. Stefanski was tailoring this offense to Deshaun Watson. That's why you saw a lot more shotgun. I mean, majority of shotgun, I would say. It's why you saw some read options, some RPOs, some quarterback runs. That's what Watson is comfortable with. At the same time, Stefanski still wanted to implement some of his scheme to Deshaun Watson. And with Deshaun Watson not playing any of that scheme throughout his NFL career, because he didn't in Houston and he didn't at Clemson, that's why you were seeing Watson struggle a little bit more. But when we got to Baltimore, you saw Deshaun Watson though really start to get. Fortunately, he was injured and that ended his season, but you saw him get into a groove a little bit and get that confidence. That's the other thing too. Deshaun Watson is still working on getting his confidence back from missing 2 years. And Joe Flacco, being the pro that he is for as long as he's played in the NFL, that Super Bowl winning experience, he's seen all of it. And I'm sure it didn't take him really long to learn this offense. And it probably has taken and still taken Deshaun Watson a good portion of time to learn because, again, he is learning a new offense compared to what he's worked with for the rest of his career. But, yeah, I mean, Joe Flacco has done everything Kevin Stefanski has needed him to do and much more. So can't wait to see. I still don't think, Dave, we've seen the best of Joe Flacco because I think we might see a game where he can throw for 300 and throw for 3 touchdowns and not turn it over. I think that is completely possible.
The other thing is, keep in mind, Deshaun Watson hasn't started. He started 3 games in a row, first 3 games, and then it was out for a couple games, in for a game, out for a couple. So there hasn't been any type of rhythm that he's been able to get into. All right, Juan Thornhill tweets this out. Just to let you know what's going on with players. Despite all of our injuries this season, Coach Stefanski finds a way to put us in position to win each week. Love that guy. And players don't always tweet those kind of things, so it's a good indication the locker room has respect to the guy that's the head coach.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if we've ever seen Browns players tweet in support of a head coach for the most part. That's really encouraging to see. I know Myles Garrett commented on Coach Stefanski as well, basically saying he was doing a great job. He used another word, but I'll say doing a great job. Yeah, the players love him. And you can see in those post-game speeches too, just the reaction in the locker room. You can tell everyone is bought in. It hasn't mattered so far, and we hope it continues. No matter who's been hurt, whoever's missed time, this team just continues to find ways to win. And that's a big credit to the coaching staff. They always have these guys ready. What they do after a victory, they let them have Monday. They let them have Monday off. They let them have Tuesday off, and they're back to work on Wednesday. You know, it's not a lot of practice during the week, but you can tell these players like that, and they're even coming into work when they don't have to. I mean, you see a lot of players that come into the building when they're not even going to have practice that day. So that also just shows the type of atmosphere that they're building in Berea, and you love to see that.
All right, Browns have the 5-8 Bears coming to town now. Chicago has won 2 in a row. Justin Fields has played better as of late. Last game in Cleveland was not a good one for Justin Fields. His first start, sacked 9 times. Myles Garrett had 4.5 of those 9 sacks. What are some matchups that concern you and some matchups that the Browns can exploit?
So the matchup that concerns me, it's one player, and it's Justin Fields. The ability he has with his legs, that is something that's hurt the Browns all year. I mean, you talk about Lamar Jackson. He has tormented the Browns on the ground. Geno Smith, who's not known for being a guy who's going to just run on you continuously. He had a good day doing that. Another name I want to bring up, Gardner Minshew, had his best rushing game. I mean, it was only 27 yards, but he still ran for 2 touchdowns. Justin Fields is Lamar Jackson as a runner. I mean, the difference is Fields will run it, I think, in some cases even more than Lamar. That is one thing that they really look at. And with Justin Fields, the big thing that you have to watch is he's going to make plays with his feet, but also he's not really looking to drop back a lot and make plays with his arm. He can, of course, do that, but he really wants to run and use his legs to set up other players. So that's the big thing. Can the Browns and Jim Schwartz come up with a game plan to contain Justin Fields? Because that's been the Browns' biggest Achilles heel all year is mobile quarterbacks. But one thing they can exploit about the Bears offense, that offensive line is not very good. I mean, Justin Fields has been one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the league all year. And, you know, he's been healthy the last couple weeks. And through the last couple weeks, Justin Fields has thrown for nearly 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns, 2 picks over his last 6 starts. And the Bears have looked a lot better. I mean, look at what they did to Detroit on Sunday. And I know they were at home for that game, but the Lions are still a pretty good football team. This is not a game that the Browns should take lightly. And then on the offensive side of the ball, the Bears are near the bottom of the league in pass defense. Joe Flacco, I think, is going to have a big day on Sunday against this defense. And the Bears are very good against the run. They're actually in the top 5 against the run, defending the run this year. So I expect the Browns to really pass the ball, again, probably 40, 45 times on Sunday to come away with a win.
Tyler Johnson, as always, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Tyler.
Thank you so much, Dave. Always my pleasure.
Tyler Johnson, make sure to check him out. Faithful Dogs podcast, as well as Network 216. It's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.